Welcome back to Race Report, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Had a good Easter weekend. Now today I want to talk about something a little different. I want to talk about Extreme E. So in the background of this video there'll be a bit of gameplay from F1 2020. We'll be following along with Max Verstappen and riding on board in Australia. So Extreme E had their first race this weekend. I was quite excited. I love the idea of it. And I've never really been one for off-roading or rally or anything like that. I'm usually, more of a single-seater kind of guy. But I was excited. I was genuinely excited for it. So I gave it a watch. And I just want to have a quick chat about it, really. It was really interesting and really good, I thought. So I'll do a quick primer for those who don't know. Extreme E is an all-electric off-roading series. Brand new. First race was literally this weekend. Their goal is to talk about sustainability and the environmental impact that we're having on the world. So they dedicate their races in locations that have had high impact, such as Saudi Arabia and Argentina and Greenland. And of course it's all electric as well. Their big, unique selling point, I guess, is that they're trying to limit their impact as well. You see it all the time. One of the big things about F1 and Formula E when they talk about their impact is, you always fly the equipment out and how bad is it for these cars to keep going around the tracks and stuff like that. Whereas these guys Extreme E are actually trying to change that. So they've got what they call the floating paddock, which is a boat, a massive boat, which they do all their transport in, and they have scientists that actually go along and ensure their impact is minimal to these locations, which brilliant. As you can imagine, this is set up by the guy who formed Formula E as well. He did that, he's done that now, he's come over, done Extreme E, and looking forward to seeing how this goes for sure. It's definitely had a lot of backing as well. So currently we see the likes of, you may have heard of actually, Lewis Hamilton, he's got a team. Nico Rosberg, he's got a team, so you probably heard about them reigniting their war over in Extreme E. Of course, they're not racing for those teams; they're just team owners. Jenson Button also has a team, a former F1 champion, of course. Jenson Button, he does race for his team, which is very interesting. I've not seen Jenson Button race since he was in Formula One, so that's been a pleasure again. You also have the likes of Adrian Newey getting involved. He and John-Eric Verne have co-founded a team together as well. And you also have rally legends such as Sebastian Loeb and Carlos Sainz Sr. coming into the sport as drivers. So it's a good mix. And you also have Jamie Chadwick as well, the W Series champion. So you have they do actually have a very good gender balance in the sport as well. So it's a very forward-thinking sport. But with anything, intentions are all well and good, but how was the actual racing? I'll start with the format. And the format did kind of catch me out a little bit. So they did the qualifying, where they all ran one at a time, and everything was kind of alright, as you'd kind of expect. But then when it came to the races, a little bit of confusion. It took me a couple kind of explanations to kind of get to grips with it. So the grid essentially was split into three of where they qualified. You get the top three, and then you get the bottom, and then the middle bracket from 4th to 6th was referred to as the crazy race. That's not very descriptive. I didn't really know what that meant, and it took me a little while to get hold of it. But basically, it's a third race where the winner of that crazy race from who qualified 4th to 6th, the winner of that group, they get to be part of the top bracket. So think of it as the top bracket gets to race, and that's for the major points. That's the one you want to be in. And then the bottom bracket get to race, and that's for, not a lot of points. Yeah, more bragging rights, I guess. And then this middle group, you're racing to get into that top bracket. So if you race in this one, you have a chance to get into that top bracket, score the big points. If you don't win that race, you're going into the bottom bracket. So effectively, there's 3 races. So it took a little while, but it seemed to work. Not crazy about the name Crazy Race, but it worked out and everything went well. There were a few teething problems, as you can probably imagine. It was the very first time these cars, these drivers, everything went ahead. So as you can imagine, a few problems. I think there were penalties being handed out like candy due to software glitches, I heard. When the drivers have to pit, so they have to be on a pit limiter, just like F1. And then they change drivers and then they have to go slowly out, that sort of thing. I read somewhere that the software on the cars kind of failed, so 2 teams got penalties, rather big penalties as well, for stuff there. But glitches happen. It'll be worked out. There was also some really big crashes, which, obviously it's off-roading, so, it's more likely to happen, that kind of thing. These cars held up well, though. There was no injuries. So that's really good to see. And it created a little bit of excitement, like some visuals of cars going flying is good for the front page of news. One thing I will say is about the coverage. Obviously, the coverage needs time to settle down, get used to the sport as well. I was watching on BBC. I know, different broadcast partners have it in different areas of the world, so your mileage may vary there. But for me, BBC, they weren't amazing. They were still obviously getting up to speed on the sport, and they were, espousing its virtues all the time, but they weren't really telling me what I needed to know about the sport. They're saying, oh, how good it is to be green, and how they're doing this and how they're doing that, but they weren't, whilst the cars are racing, they weren't explaining to me, that technical in-depth knowledge we get from, like, say, Martin Brundle on Sky's coverage, that kind of thing, which is what I'm kind of used to now, but I was kind of missing that. It's completely understandable. I completely understand it. It's not a big deal, but I kind of missed that there. And for the racing itself, in the actual races, it was interesting. I think it will be a lot better once we get out of the sand races. So we've got a couple of sandy kind of races. So this one was in Saudi Arabia, big sand dunes, obviously. And the next one I think is in Dakar. And that kind of made it challenging. I kind of wish we hadn't started on a sand race, so we got to see more racing. Because what actually happened was, whoever came out first, out of the first corner, kicked up so much sand into the cars behind that they went on to win, because, the cars behind them couldn't see, so they couldn't catch up. And it was kind of, it could have been better. Like, it was still fun. It was still these massive SUVs, electric SUVs, going at it toe to toe with each other. It was still good. It just, you were robbed of kind of that overtaking excitement, because the car in first simply just had to splash a bunch of dust onto the cars behind. So I'm looking forward to seeing more, when we get to Greenland, and when we get to Brazil and Argentina, because there'll be less of that, so it'll be more interesting there to see. But overall, I was extremely impressed. I want to keep watching, and I want to keep following it, and I hope it gets a good amount of traction, because it's a good cause essentially at the core of it, and the racing wasn't half bad either. So I hope it keeps going. I hope it's a bit of a Formula E type where maybe it takes a couple seasons to get going, but it will get there. I really hope that is true, and I want to keep making content on it as well. So did anybody else watch it, is my question. Did anybody else watch it? Are you interested in Extreme E? Do you want to see more content from me? If there's anything specific, give me a shout, obviously. Drop a comment, and I'll try and cover it as best I can. But yeah, if you want to see more from that, I'm happy to make it. Do drop a like, do subscribe to the channel. I mean, those are the things that tell me that you like this content, so go for it. And hope to catch you in the next one.